Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Hitting the Field podcast. And today we've got a good one in store. So, Jeremy Brenner, your host here, and we are going to be starting a new series on the Hitting the Field podcast called The GOAT Debates. And today's GOAT debate, we've got Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers. And here's how this is going to work. So, we've got one guy for Brady, one guy for Rodgers. They're going to give their opening statements. Then they're going to challenge those statements. And then at the end, each panelist will be given a chance to give a closing statement. Now, the only person that can talk during opening and closing statements is the person giving the argument. But during the middle time period, they're going to go all out, hurling arguments back and forth, so I'm ready to get this started. Introducing the man, the myth, the legend in the Brady corner. It's Mr. Sean Green. Sean, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. Hanging in there. I'm glad we can put this debate to rest real quick.
Okay, putting the debate to rest. Interesting. So after this is going to be totally over.
It's going to be over really quick, Jeremy. I'm just going to, let the time run, push the podcast out longer, just have a little bit more fun than I'd like
Interesting.
But this is going to be over pretty quickly.
Interesting. So, the man that will probably vehemently disagree with that statement in the Rodgers corner, Mr. Jon Whitley. John, what did you think about what Sean had to say there?
It's what I've been hearing a lot lately. The disrespect for Rodgers has been all over the place lately. So I'm fired up. I get to clear the air on this one.
Absolutely. So, Brady will go for Tom Brady. John will go for Aaron Rodgers. Which one of you would like to go first?
John can go first.
I'll go first.
All right, Jon Whitley's going to go first. You're going to have 2 minutes to explain your argument. Sean, you cannot speak during this time period. We're going to give John the chance, and then after he is done, you will get your chance to speak for equal amount of time. So, Jon Whitley, your 2 minutes starts now.
Yeah, so listen, the reasons Rodgers is greater than Brady is really bigger than numbers, but let me start out by throwing some numbers at you. Rodgers got to 300 touchdowns way before Tom Brady did. It took Rodgers 144 games. It took Tom Brady 161 games to reach that mark. Okay? All-time QBR, Rodgers is higher. Completion percentage all-time, Rodgers is higher. Okay? So, statistically, I think Rodgers has performed better than Brady. Secondly, I think, it's bigger than Super Bowls in that Rodgers has really revolutionized the quarterback position and really evolved it into a new era. Whereas before Rodgers, it was all about a pocket passer, or you had a rare breed like a Michael Vick who'd run the ball. But Rodgers was able to take his athleticism and mobility to buy time to find receivers downfield, which is kind of what we see everybody doing right now. So I think his versatility is greater than Brady. I think because Rodgers can stand back in the pocket and pick you apart all day too, but there's more to it than his game. And I think the discrepancy in Super Bowls is misleading just because Brady obviously is a great quarterback, and I think he would have had a good career anywhere. But the Patriots always put a team around him where he had a chance to win the Super Bowl. With Rodgers, I can't really say the same thing. It's really been a dysfunctional organization for a lot of his time there, and he's pretty much just kept them afloat. So, some years they didn't have a playoff caliber team on their roster, but Rodgers was able to will them there. I think also if you turn on the tape, Rodgers is a clearly better quarterback. His highs are way more impressive. So I think ultimately Rodgers is the greater of the two.
Excellent. All right, Sean, your 2 minutes. That will start right now.
I think it's a very simple argument, and it's really hard for John to, make this argument. It's much tougher for him than it is for me. He's having to pull out QBR and, all these cute stats to show why Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady, and it's simply not true. I think the one number that's the most is the number 6-time Super Bowl championship. And yeah, you can look at it as like, oh, he had Belichick. But let's not kid ourselves here. Aaron Rodgers has had much better weapons than Tom Brady has. 2017, Tom Brady played the Atlanta Falcons. He was 28-50 for Julian Edelman, Chris Hogan, and Malcolm Mitchell. You give Aaron Rodgers those same people, I'm sorry, they don't come back from a 28-3 deficit, and they are nowhere close to the Super Bowl. They might not even make the playoffs. So I think, yeah, you can look at Aaron Rodgers' stats and his athleticism and say, yeah, he's better than Brady in a couple areas of football. But I think what's most important is a mindset and the winning grittiness and mentality. Brady, let's be real. If you look at Aaron Rodgers' record, Aaron Rodgers is 113-60-1. So he's lost 60 games in his career already. Brady is 219-64-0. He's lost 4 more games than Rodgers, and he's played how many more seasons? So I think you look at the wins and losses combined plus playoffs, it's very hard not to pick Brady as the GOAT. No questions asked. Done deal.
All right. That sounds it sounds like we've got a good one on our hands, guys. I think that the reason why I thought this was perfect for the two of you to go on, you are both staunch defenders of your guys as it is on a daily basis in conversations that we have outside of this arena, this podcast. So I thought that this was a good way to do it. For me, I personally don't have an answer. I'm hoping that by the end of this, I will have an answer, and that's up to you guys to convince me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a back seat. I'm going to let you two talk it over and try to defend your guy even harder. I think we're off to a good start. I think y'all are pretty neck and neck so far, but I'm going to give you guys the floor now, and go ahead. Ding, ding, ding.
All right. Well, first of all, let me counter what you said about the Super Bowls, because if it's all about Super Bowls and wins and losses, then it's like, what about Terry Bradshaw? He had 4 Super Bowls, but I don't think he's a greater quarterback than, say, like a John Elway or even an Aaron Rodgers or a Brett Favre. So it's like, I don't think it can be all about Super Bowls and wins and losses because it's a team sport. And like Brady has played for the greatest organization of the past 2 decades, and he's benefited from that.
Well, it's obvious he's benefited from it. There's no question about it. Even people would be crazy to say that, if Brady didn't have Belichick, he'd win 6 or vice versa. But I think you have to look at it logically here and say, you put Tom Brady on the Green Bay Packers for the years that Aaron Rodgers played for the Green Bay Packers. There's no question he wins more Super Bowls. And yeah, the Super Bowls are – John, if you look at the receivers, just the receivers alone – that Aaron Rodgers has played with in his years in the NFL compared to Brady's, it's not even close. With
Randy Moss, one of the greatest 3 receivers of all time. Rob Gronkowski, probably the greatest tight end of all time.
Okay, if I go down the list of Brady receivers and Aaron Rodgers receivers, okay. Yeah, you named the big hitters, Randy Moss, Gronk. You got Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Troy Brown, okay? Those are probably the top receivers that we played with. Aaron Rodgers had Donald Driver, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams. Some of these guys, you give me Devontae Adams right now over Julian Edelman, our top receiver. If Brady had Devontae Adams, it wouldn't have even been a discussion for the amount of years that Rodgers has had Devontae Adams. So I think you look at it like that. Brady hasn't had the star receivers besides Gronk and Moss. Those are the top 2 star out-of-this-world receivers that you could say, okay, Brady's had.
Here's the thing, Sean, is like, okay, they both had their share of good receivers, and I think one thing you can say about both of them is that they both made some receivers great who otherwise probably we wouldn't even know their names. But here's the thing is, like, if you put Tom Brady on the Packers, he would be in trouble because he can't move. in year after year for a while, it seems like Rodgers has had no receivers, no offensive line. The offense with McCarthy was just lazy. So Rodgers literally had to run around back there and make everything happen, basically turn everything into magic if we were going to win. And Brady wouldn't be able to do that. Brady can't move around. He can't improvise. He can't make his own plays like that. So he'd be in big trouble.
I don't think for 20 years Brady has had a great O-line. I think if you look at the last, 5, 6 years, he's had a historically great offensive line that kept him protected. But if you go back to some of the earlier years, it wasn't like the O-line was this like dominant force. Yeah, they were really good. You had Matt Light, you had some really big hitters in the early stages of his career, but in the middle stages, you had some, fourth round, fifth round offensive linemen that were decent. I think the problem with the Packers was they would try so hard to get offensive linemen, and it just wouldn't work out. And Aaron Rodgers, not his fault, but Aaron Rodgers, he was a mobile quarterback, and he is a mobile quarterback. He loves to go out of the pocket and make those long throws. Brady's a pocket passer. He doesn't need to, do these crazy throws, and that's not his game. He's not as athletic as Aaron Rodgers is.
Exactly. He's not as athletic. And if you put Rodgers in a system where he has to 3-step drop, get the ball out, he can do that. But if you put Brady in like a Mike McCarthy system where he has to create plays on his own and buy time, Brady can't do that. He's in trouble.
Mike McCarthy is a Super Bowl winning head coach.
Yeah, but his scheme is lazy.
Why is it lazy?
Because it's simple routes. It was outdated. We're talking about just like comebacks and slants and posts, and that's fine for his era.
Technically, that's what Brady's a pocket short thrower. Let's get real. Brady doesn't throw it down deep a ton. He loves those intermediate short throws. So don't you think if Brady was on the Packers right now with Mike McCarthy, they would have at least 3 to 4 Super Bowls because that's Brady's game?
I don't think they would, just because there's been too many times where Rodgers has to create on his own. Like, if he didn't, then the team wouldn't have even made the playoffs. I mean, outside looking in, I see where you come from, but I'm telling you, this team did not have the players you think. Like the roster was not put together well, and this Mike McCarthy's scheme was terrible. So whereas like Brady has always had the right talent around him for the scheme, and it's also been a good scheme.
Okay, so we're looking like last year, right? You're a new head coach. Do you think that's going to make the difference in the years ahead? Do you think Rodgers is now going to all of a sudden blossom and start winning Super Bowls all of a sudden?
I think he will. I think the problem is it's a much smaller window because he's a 36-year-old. But I think the fact they actually have a running game now, that's something that he never really had in the McCarthy era.
Has Brady ever had a running game though?
I think they've always had solid running back play. Whereas the offense has been all on Rodgers' shoulder. Like the whole organization has been all on Rodgers' shoulders.
Have we had an Aaron Jones on our team in the last 10 plus years?
You've had a LeGarrette Blount.
Okay, John.
You've had a Dion Lewis. I'm just saying, you guys have had good running back play. It's not committee, but it's been good running back play.
But okay, but our running backs, like you said, LeGarrette Blount, okay, who does he play for now? The Lions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did he? How many snaps did he take for the Lions?
Yeah, but he was older. He's done by that point.
Okay, but when he was with the Patriots, we let him go. He went to Pittsburgh. He was behind Le'Veon Bell. He barely played. Then he got upset. Dion Lewis, we made him a star. He goes to Tennessee. He barely gets any reps. Now
so then what happens if you take Tom Brady away from the Patriots?
Oh, well, it's not even
a similar story.
If you give us Aaron Rodgers and you take away Tom Brady, we don't win as much because Aaron Rodgers is a very selfish.
Rodgers is not. First off, that's a misconception that he's a selfish quarterback. Rodgers can do everything Brady can and more.
All right, I'm going to stop you guys here for a little bit, and I'm going to give you guys a challenge right now, okay? So I want you guys to send me through a DM, like a text. You can do it on Skype. We're doing this on Skype. So just send me a direct message on Skype, and I want to know your top 5 quarterbacks just overall, okay? And
Okay.
and I want to see where, like, obviously where your person is, but also where Brady and Rodgers is, if you're not going for that person, and if they're not in the top 5, then tell me where they would rank. Okay, so give me your top
Okay.
5. While John and Sean are doing this, I'm going to use this opportunity to plug in our current HTF stuff going on right now. We had the Ladies of HTF, hosted by former host Jessica Herman. They put on the HTF Lady Show, where they honored, impacts of women in sport. So you can go check that out on our YouTube page. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And go check us out on our Twitter and Instagram at Hitting the Field. We are posting content very regularly during this COVID-19 pandemic. Just because the pandemic is stopping live sports doesn't mean it stops the work that we do here at HTF. I believe I got a list from Sean, and
No, I'm still typing it.
Oh, you're still typing it? Did I get one from Whitley? Not yet.
Yeah, you
Okay.
kind of put me on the spot, Jeremy. Here, you put us on
You
the
know
spot.
what? Hey, that's what this is all about. This is about putting y'all on the spot and trying to figure out, because this is going to actually, it's going to reveal a lot to me. It's going to reveal not just what you think about your quarterback. Obviously, we know who your number 1 is, but I'm curious to see what you think about the person that you're arguing against, and see, how much they're not the number 1. So that's the purpose of this, and I'll reveal these a little later on in the show. At
I
a
just
convenient
texted you
moment.
mine.
Did I get one from Whitley?
Yeah.
Yeah, send it to me directly. I don't want y'all seeing your results yet.
Yeah.
So send it just to me.
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'll be nice.
You'll be nice. What is?
I'll be nice as well.
All right. Y'all are gonna be nice. Interesting. I wonder what that means, though. But nonetheless, you can also check out Take Me Out to the Podcast. They had another episode with Johnny Jackson, Jarrett Kaplan, and Charlie Reyes. They talked about their umpiring careers and what's going on in the baseball world right now. So be sure to check that out as well. You can go on Apple Podcasts or to our YouTube channel for that as well. Speaking of which, yeah, y'all are taking too long. I need answers quickly. Come on, let's go.
Yep.
Did you get mine?
Let me check. Did you send it on Skype?
Just send your.
All right, I got one from Sean. Okay.
Yep.
Whitley, I do not have yours.
I sent it in text.
You sent it to my text? Okay, I got it. All right, interesting. Very interesting. I won't reveal these just yet, but I will hold on to these at a convenient time. So, y'all talked a lot about schemes thus far and how the scheme has, affected their play. But I want y'all kind of to go back to the just the quarterback itself, and that's kind of why I wanted y'all to rank the quarterbacks here. So, like, quarterback wise, just like talent wise, what do you value most? Because like there were moments, like obviously Rodgers in his career has these moments where what he does is something that nobody else can do. But you could also say the same thing for Brady, where he's doing things that you simply can't do. Like I think a lot of people forget that Brady pre-ACL injury in 2008 had nearly 50 touchdowns in a season. That season where they went 16-0. Sean, do you have a number for that?
Yeah, it was 2007. I believe it was 50. Yeah, 53 touchdowns.
Yeah. So that's something that I feel like he was able to, in that regard, that's something that nobody had done at the time. So I want y'all to talk more about just the talent from a quarterback perspective, not necessarily about the people around him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you can make the argument that, y'all were talking about, like, a weak receiver core. You could say the same thing about the Packers right now, too. The Packers are like, oh, Packers need receivers. And you can say the same thing about the Patriots, too. So it's like, and there were at points in their careers where, yes, Brady did have really good receivers around him. And there were points during Rodgers' career where he had really good receivers around him, where he had Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb. Like, those guys got 1,000 yards, consistently. So I want y'all to talk about the quarterback, because this is a Brady-Rodgers debate. This is not a Packers-Patriots debate. It's a strictly Brady-Rodgers debate. So talk about more about the talent from themselves.
So here's the thing is, like, if I took both of their career tape, okay, and showed them to somebody who knew very minimal about football, didn't know anything about how many games each had won, didn't know anything about how many Super Bowls they'd won, they would hands down say that Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback.
Would they, though?
They absolutely would. That'd be like showing like Steph Curry against like Chris Paul, like the thing Steph Curry does we just hadn't really seen before.
And listen, I think that's why you don't just show people tape and say, okay, you tell me who's better.
But the eye in the sky doesn't lie, Sean.
Yeah, but stats don't lie either, John. And
yeah, greater QBR, fastest to 300 touchdowns, higher completion percentage.
It's not like blowing. Okay, if we go and just we could look at playoff stats and regular season stats. It's not like Rodgers is blowing Brady out of the water. Brady has 74,000 yards passing in his career. Now, granted, again, it's so hard because Aaron Rodgers is 36 and Brady is 42. So he has 6 years on Rodgers. But it's so hard not to look at the stats and be like, listen, yeah, of course, if any NFL fan said that Brady is a more athletic quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, they'd be stupid and they wouldn't really be watching football. Aaron Rodgers is a freak when it comes to the athleticism. I will give him that much. He is a great quarterback. But the issue when it comes down to is it's a mentality. It's a clutch gene. And listen, Aaron Rodgers can have the intangibles, but it's not like Brady doesn't have intangibles. He's a very accurate passer. He's great in the pocket. He finds receivers that aren't open and put them in tight windows. Aaron Rodgers, he does some of those things, but the one
I would say he does all of those things. Which one of those things does he not do?
He doesn't have a clutch gene.
He does have a clutch gene. How is it? Okay, it made. I think you're forgetting. Like, he misses the Super Bowl because a backup tight end drops an onside kick. That's out of Aaron Rodgers' control. And
There's
also,
how
many quarterbacks can need to win their last 6 games to make the playoffs? Stand at a press conference, say we're going to run the table, and then do it and make it all the way to the NFC Championship. That's clutch.
Is it clutch? Did he make it to the Super Bowl? Did he make it to the Super Bowl?
He didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but he took that as far as it can go. Just like Brady took this year's Patriots team as far as he can go. I don't put that on Brady.
Oh, okay, and I agree. But that's what I'm saying. If you gave Rodgers the team that Brady had, because I know we're talking about the quarterbacks, but if we flip-flopped and you put Brady on the Packers and Aaron Rodgers on the Patriots this year, Patriots don't make the playoffs. The Packers go to the Super Bowl.
I don't know about that.
And listen, and I know quarterback, like, intangibles and stats are so important.
But how can you say that when, like, right now with Rodgers as a 36-year-old and Brady as a 42-year-old, right now Rodgers is the better quarterback?
If you go on any
right now, anybody. James Winston might be.
Oh, okay, John. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback right now. Like, but that's not the argument.
Rodgers go further.
One is 42 and one is 36. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing football at 42 years old.
I don't think he will either because he's had to take so much more of a beating. But I think ultimately Aaron Rodgers has had more impact on the game, more impact on the quarterback position than Tom Brady has.
More impact?
Yeah, he's evolved the quarterback position. Very similar to like how Steph Curry's evolved the point guard position.
So okay, we look at quarterbacks that are these crazy freak athletes that run out of the pocket, make these crazy throws, run for a first down. Where do most of those guys end up? they end up in the hospital breaking bones because they're not reliable.
Well, Pat Mahomes has that very, very similar playing style, and he ended up winning the Lombardi Trophy.
He's been in 2 years in the league. 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Aaron Rodgers
2 years in the league, and he's hosting the Lombardi.
And don't you remember Patrick Mahomes had an injury this season? An injury that could have probably put him out for the whole season if it wasn't for a grace from God to keep him coming back after 3 weeks. So yeah. I'm saying,
but here's what I'm saying: if he was a statue and played like the old days of Brady and Manning and these guys, we wouldn't even know his name.
Well, Brady just won a Super Bowl in 2019, so the statue has won. The last time, John, you're a Packers fan. When was the last time Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl?
2010. But like I said, I don't care who's won more Super Bowls or not, because that's a team. That is not an individual.
Okay, you take Aaron Rodgers off the Packers, and you put another quarterback in there.
I'd probably try.
Yeah. Do they get even close?
No, they don't.
Okay, so that's the root of the argument. You could say the same thing about the Patriots. It's about the quarterback. So you put Tom Brady on the Tampa Bay Bucks. They're an NFC championship, team.
We'll see. We'll see about that. People said that about the Browns before the season. We haven't seen it.
Yeah, but you have to look at everything. Stats are important. I know that's the root of your argument. Aaron Rodgers has a better stats.
We can keep going around and around in circles, but ultimately it comes down to Aaron Rodgers evolved the position more, and if I showed you the tape of both players, Rodgers is the better player. He stands out more on tape.
Yeah. All right, I think it's time to reveal these lists that you two sent me about 10 minutes ago. So these lists are very interesting, but they are very telling. They're very telling about why you guys are arguing the points that you are arguing. All right, so whose list should I go for first?
Go Sean's first. I'm curious.
No. Oh, come on. Okay, go ahead.
I'm curious.
All right, I'll reveal Sean's first then. All right. So number 1 is Tom Brady, obviously. Number 2, Joe Montana, which was not on John's list at all.
Okay, no. Time out. What? That would be a debate. Oh my God! Just keep going, Jeremy. Oh, that's terrible.
Number 3, Peyton Manning. Number 4, Johnny Unitas. And number 5, Aaron Rodgers. So interesting. So Sean, why did you put Montana, Peyton Manning, Johnny Unitas ahead of Aaron Rodgers?
Well, to be honest, I was going to put Aaron Rodgers 6 and put Favre ahead because I know let's be real, even Mr. Jon Whitley, that's his favorite Packer, so it's kind of weird to hear him go for Aaron Rodgers when Favre is his favorite Packer. No, I put Joe Montana second. That should be what this debate is about, who's better between Brady and Montana. For years, when I'm trying to bolster Brady's GOAT status, all I've heard is Manning and Montana. And I actually think Montana is a great argument. So I put him number 2 because he was number 1 for so many years. I moved Brady ahead of Montana when he won in 2014. Manning, it's very simple. I think take everything out of it, and he's probably the best passer to ever play the game, just like Rodgers. But again, Manning is a pocket passer, just like Brady, and it's a completely different situation. But I think Manning's third. Unitas is an insane quarterback. Again, a lot of people that are growing up and especially like our age might not know these people, so you have to, do your research. Wasn't the greatest passer. He had a lot of interceptions, but he's a 2-time NFL champion, 78.2 passer rating. That's an incredibly great passer rating, and a 10-time Pro Bowler, 3-time NFL MVP, 40,000 yards. I think for his time, he was like the Joe Montana or Drew Brees of his time. So that's why I put him 4th. And then, again, I think when you go 5th in Aaron Rodgers, again, he, just like John said, he has revolutionized the quarterback, the intangible thing. But when you look at quarterbacks and what you want your quarterback to have, you want them to have a winning attitude and a leadership role in the locker room. I would have put Favre 5th, but I'm being gracious and I'm putting him in my top 5 right now, but Favre could have easily been in there over Rodgers.
So I think that a good indicator is Peyton Manning, because Peyton Manning played in the same era as Brady and Rodgers. So specifically, why is Manning better than Rodgers, and why is Brady better than Manning?
I think it's a very simple thing. It's the eye test, just like you said. You have to look at a stat, and then you have to look at tape. And Peyton Manning was a great passer, but there was something about Peyton that he would play Brady, and he got the best of Brady a couple times, but there was just this thing where Peyton didn't look always the same. Brady would always pull out a victory over Peyton for the most part. Now in the later years when he was on Denver, let's be real here. If you looked at both quarterbacks, one was faded into the, sunlight. He was pretty much donezo and let his defense handle it. But Brady was carrying a team. He was leading the team. And Peyton Manning was a historic leader. And he's still one of the all-time greats. But if you look at both quarterbacks and you say, okay, who's better? Who made more of an impact? It's obviously Tom Brady, and it's an eye test, but the eye test includes statistics. Even though Peyton Manning has more passing yards and all that jazz, it's so much more than just passing yards and QBR.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now I'm going to reveal Whitley's top 5. So Whitley is Aaron Rodgers, number 1. Number 2, John Elway, not on Sean's top 5. Number 3, Dan Marino, also not in Sean's top 5. Number 4 is Tom Brady, and then number 5 is Peyton Manning. So,
wow,
John, I'm going to let you now have the floor to defend that top 5 list.
Yeah, well, because I think with all those guys, it's sort of the same thing where it's like you turn on the tape, these are the guys that I say these are the best 5 quarterbacks in that order. And also, like, as a pass catcher, like, if you're asking me, like, I can play with any of these guys, who do I want to play with? It's those 5 guys in those order, because those are the most talented guys that are going to make you better. I think ultimately, like, Aaron Rodgers, obviously just, like, the best quarterback I've ever seen, at least until this guy Pat Mahomes came along. But he has 2 years in, I can't put him up there just yet. But I think when it's all said and done, he has the chance to.
Yeah.
But so you go Rodgers, Elway, same thing. You turn on the tape, ridiculous. Plus his 3 Super Bowls puts him a notch above Marino, who also same thing. You turn on that tape and it's like he was ahead of his time. He really was. And then as far as quarterback play, Brady and Manning are a different breed in that, like, they know what they can diagnose your coverage so quick, find that receiver. It's amazing. It's like you can't if you come into a week playing Brady or Manning and you don't change things up, you run the same coverages you ran all season, you're guaranteed gonna lose that game. You're in trouble.
Right.
I ultimately gave Brady the nod over Manning because of that. Just the fact that he has more Super Bowls, because it's just so neck and neck between those 2 guys. And then Montana off the list is not an easy thing to do, but I think the mainstream media lies a lot when it comes to quarterbacks, saying that Brady and Montana are the greatest 2 ever, when it's like they're not. Okay, Bill Walsh's offense was so far ahead of his time. That's what won the 49ers Super Bowls. It wasn't so much. I mean, yeah, Montana played great football. It's like he'd probably be 6 on my list. So, but it's like if I'm just looking at the sheer quarterback plays, those 5 guys in that order.
So I think what I'm seeing here is the main argument for you, Whitley, to deem Rodgers the GOAT is the fact that physically he is the best talent.
Yeah, it's turn on the tape. Plus, I mean, the stats don't lie either.
Right. And Sean, from what I'm getting at your argument, is you look at the rings and how that's important.
That's the main. Like, it's so hard to it's not hard to make a case for Brady, but it's like, come on, like it's almost like laughable at a point. Like, okay, like, are we seriously having an argument about Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers? I think the 2 lists are very telling of how we see, like, what quarterbacks should be in the top 5. I think it's very telling how we both see a quarterback.
But it's like, logically, I don't know if you agree with your side, because then it's like, why is Bradshaw not on your top 5 ever?
No.
Like, he won 4 Super Bowls.
Bradshaw's and Bradshaw's up there, and that's why Montana's too. And it's not like I don't ever look at just Super Bowls, but Super Bowls is a very telling factor. You do have to include other factors into it, but I think your list is so dependent on quarterbacks that have revolutionized. Like Dan Marino, I totally agree he's a top 10 quarterback, but you have him so high when it's like, okay, so you pick quarterbacks that revolutionize the position, even if they don't do much with it.
Here, I want to bring this up, this revolutionize, because that's a big word that we've used a lot so far. Revolutionizing, I think, is an important thing, but how important is that to a GOAT debate, like the debate here? Because, like, you could say Michael Vick is the most revolutionizing quarterback, or Lamar Jackson is on a new level in terms of revolutionizing the position, or you could say Randall Cunningham was like that as well. So why is that such an important factor in determining who is the greatest of all time?
Because that's a ton of impact on the game, Jerry. Because if you could do it the way Rodgers did it, put up the numbers he put up, win a Super Bowl. Now you've made way for these guys like Pat Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, who are carrying on that type style of play that we had never seen before. Like before Rodgers, we had never seen guys doing some of this stuff.
Who would you say, Sean,
That's great.
We've talked about how, like, Mahomes has shades of Rodgers in him. Which quarterback afterwards has shades of Brady in him?
Oh, wow, that's actually a really good question. I wouldn't say in the NFL right now there's anybody that I see like that it has really good shades of Brady, because the NFL has changed so drastically to have these quarterbacks. Like, I would say maybe Darnold, but like not even close to being decent. Like, you have to look at a guy that's going to stay in the pocket, make the really good throws that are accurate and on time. I would say the closest that I see that is as good or could be as good as Brady is Trevor Lawrence, that's in college right now.
That's kind of what I was thinking was, Trevor Lawrence.
Even though Trevor Lawrence can run, it's more his accuracy in the pocket and his ability to stay in the pocket and make the throws. That's what I see more.
I think Trevor Lawrence is like the love child of Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, if we're being honest.
I see a lot of Manning in him as well.
Like, I think Trevor Lawrence could be the debate, could enter the debate with these guys when it's all said and done. He is that good.
Ultimately we got to see. We got to see just how he handles his business as a pro. I'm eager to see it.
Going into the league right now. Like, even though Joe Burrow, I am a little skeptical with Joe, I feel like his intangibles and what he does as a quarterback reminds me of Brady. But if we're talking about the one that I feel like is going to be closest to Brady or be the next superstar, I believe it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. So we've got a year or so to see when he comes in the league, but that's probably the closest I would say right now.
That's fair. All right. So is there anything you two would like to add before we get to closing statements?
I mean, I'd just like to reiterate, turn on the tape. Don't talk about Super Bowls and team awards. Turn on the tape. Tell me who's a better quarterback.
I would just like to say that the Packers Favre fan is trying to debate with Aaron Rodgers. So I'm
because here's the thing, Sean, is like
that's like me saying Drew Bledsoe's my favorite.
Yeah, but
I like Tom Brady.
I like Favre for his personality and his charisma, and because Rodgers isn't as likable of a guy as a Brett Favre, as a Drew Brees, or as a Peyton Manning, people like to write him off. But if we're talking about just sheer greatness of quarterback play, Rodgers is the best.
All right. So now we're gonna give you're gonna give your closing statements. You're gonna get a chance to speak 2 minutes. Reiterate some points that you made. Bring up some new points that you forgot to make that you felt like you couldn't make earlier. So I'm trying to remember who went first. I believe Whitley went first in the opening statement. So Sean, you're gonna get to go first here, and your 2 minutes starts now.
Listen, I don't want to say that everything Whitley said was wrong. Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. There's no question about it. I wouldn't be an NFL fan if I didn't say that. But I think anybody listening to this podcast or has watched any type of football can say without a doubt who the better of these two quarterbacks is and who the greatest of all time is. John won't admit it, but he believes that Tom Brady is the greatest, even if he doesn't want to say it. Tom Brady's a 14-time Pro Bowler, 6-time Super Bowl champ, 3-time MVP. He's won 219 games in his career. He's thrown 541 touchdowns, 179 interceptions. Listen, he's 42 years old. Last year he didn't look the same. It's very clear. But don't look at just stats. Because if we looked at just stats, we can look at Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he's got a higher QBR. But his record's 113 wins and 60 losses. Brady only has 64 losses. And he's played probably around 100 more games than Aaron Rodgers. So you can blame it on coaching, but Mike McCarthy's not a bad coach in his career, including the postseason. He's 135 and 85. That's not a bad record. That's a win-loss percentage of .616 or 613. So, yeah, you can look at it and say, oh, it's not even close. Tom Brady's had the better team and better weapons. But Aaron Rodgers has had the better weapons, and Brady has had lesser weapons. And that's why he is the greatest of all time, hands down. I rest my case.
All right, well said, Sean. All right, Whitley, your 2 minutes starts now.
Yeah, that sounds a whole lot like the mainstream media is telling you, but the mainstream media is lying to you to tell you that Tom Brady and Joe Montana are the greatest quarterbacks. First off, like I said, turn on the tape. Rodgers stands out. I'll tell you, I remember 1 year Rodgers needed to win the NFC Championship against the Chicago Bears just to make the playoffs. I remember it was 4th and 10 on Chicago's 30-yard line. 4th and 10, he throws a 30-yard touchdown to Randall Cobb to win the game, make it to the playoffs, okay? So Rodgers certainly has the clutch gene. I could think of times when he had to throw 2 Hail Marys against the Cardinals just to keep us in the game. I can remember a 50-yard Hail Mary against the Lions on Monday Night Football just to keep us in the playoff hunt. So it's like every time the Packers have needed a play from Rodgers, he can do it. I believe he's taken every Packers team as far as he can possibly take them. Plus, not to mention, like, the way he's evolutionized the quarterback position has been like none other. And it's like, if we're just talking Super Bowls, then it's like, it's like Bradshaw's greater than Brady, and we all know Bradshaw's not it. So I think ultimately, if I showed somebody who didn't know the tape, they would say Rodgers is better than Brady. So I rest my case.
All right, well said. So now it's time for me to make the decision. Judge Jeremy, welcome to the courtroom. But here's what I'll say, and I'll try to wrap this up. Sean, I think I agreed with a lot of what you said about Brady, about Rodgers and Brady. The one thing, though, that I disagreed with was saying that Rodgers didn't have a clutch gene, because I do think that it's hard to argue that Rodgers doesn't have a clutch gene, because like John mentioned in his closing statements, he had the Cardinals game was like the one game that I distinctly remember, and the Lions Hail Mary is of course something you remember as well. He did win that Super Bowl, which, I mean, if you win any Super Bowl, I think that is important. But John, going to what you said about Super Bowls not being as big of an indicator, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that point, because I do believe that winning Super Bowls matters. I don't think it's the number. I don't think it's the end all be all, because I do agree with you that if that's the case, Brady is that doesn't necessarily make Brady number one just because he won more Super Bowls than any of these quarterbacks, and that would put Rodgers in the same sentence as Trent Dilfer, who also only won one Super Bowl, and that's simply not the case at all. It's a combination of it. It's a combination of what you said, Sean, and what you said, John, about just what it takes to be the number one quarterback. Honestly, for me, I think Brady and Rodgers are both in the top three. I do believe that they have enough of an impact on the game. I guess considering you guys wanted to make that a big part of why your person was number one, I do believe that both of these guys have been such a huge part into revolutionizing the quarterback position. Rodgers for his sheer play, and Brady for his overall winning. And I think winning matters a lot because I think the one thing that Sean said about wins and losses, I think definitely matters. And you can compare, and in a way, even though Brady and Rodgers are both quarterbacks, we're comparing very much apples to oranges. Rodgers has more of an air out system where he gets to utilize the entire field, whereas Brady, it's very 3-step drop, nickel dime. But I will say that Brady is the master of his craft, and I will say that Aaron Rodgers is the master of his craft, which makes this a very difficult decision. I will say, though, that I think that Sean did edge you today, Whitley, and I'm going to give Sean and Brady the win for today.
Good job, John.
Good job. I don't want to take anything away from Brady. Both great quarterbacks, like Jeremy said.
Oh, of course, they are both great. We're just having a debate on a very hard topic today.
Yeah, but y'all brought it. Y'all brought the heat, which I
Facts.
appreciate. So thank you guys so much for bringing it today, and thank you, the listener, for tuning into this episode of the Hitting the Field podcast, part 1 of our GOAT debate series. We have a lot more of these in store. We have Ronaldo Messi coming up. We're going to get some soccer fans in on this podcast too. We're going to do some basketball. We've got MJ LeBron coming up soon. We've got some baseball ones on the Take Me Out to the podcast. We've got so many of these to go, and this was a great first start. So, John and Sean, thank you so much for coming on. Be sure to check out all of what's going on with Hitting the Field. Hitting the Field podcast, Hitting the Crew. Our draft coverage is continuing with the draft coming up in a little over 2 weeks. So we are not stopping here at Hitting the Field. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the flip side.